Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Conn Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media. That's AMPIRE. You know that. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. On Tuesday, I will have a story up about Sam Howell and the struggles from Sunday and what does it mean for the future, where he's at in his development, etc. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Howell, and I'll get to all that in a minute. I'm going to get to my little film review in a minute, talking about sacks, talking about the pass rush. But a couple things first. One, don't forget the live stream YouTube show Tuesday night with the Voice of the Commanders, Bram Weinstein and I. Basically, it's a therapy Tuesday, folks. So bring your questions. We're not going to harp on this game. There's stuff that you want to take from this game, but what does it mean going forward? So, there are a lot of things that did go wrong Sunday. We all saw it. There you go. So I'm going to talk about it now, but we're going to talk a little bit about then, more so trying to look, what does this mean? And then answering your questions, your concerns. You can vent a little bit too, and hopefully that'll help you feel good and feel better. They're 2-1, folks. So, I kind of when I looked at the earliest part of the schedule, I'm like, if they come out of here 3-2, after playing Buffalo, Philly, and on the road at Denver now, Denver doesn't look quite so good, to put it mildly. But, you go on the road and win, it's always a good win. So Arizona looks a little bit better than you thought, right? Because really should have beaten New York and certainly had a chance to beat this team. So Arizona could easily be 2-1. And, so there things, you see how things shake out. But if they can get to 3-2 at the worst, then they're in good shape. But you need a better showing on Sunday against Philadelphia. That's for damn sure. So a couple things. One, just a reminder, I'm going to be doing these film breakdowns or just talking about, I don't want to call it film breakdown necessarily, because I'm not going over X's or all these scheme stuff, whatever. I'm going to, or just it's a contained version of that. Anyway, if that makes sense. But one thing you need to know is I can't use video. And I know people will leave comments about, do you want video? And I try to answer everybody, but I can't use it. So I understand you want it. I want it too. Can't have it. So, that's just because I work for ESPN doesn't mean I have the rights to these videos. If you're seeing other people using them in theirs, they probably aren't supposed to be doing it. But when you work for ESPN, you're going to get scrutinized more. So I'm not doing it because it's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So therefore, I rely on the stills. I rely on conveying the information in as good a way as possible so you can learn based on what I've done. And just so you know, when I'm going back and watching these games, when I'm watching, I've watched every pass play so far, and I've watched every sack, all the defensive plays, or a pass rush, I should say. And then on Tuesday, I'll go back and finish more of it. So for the Tuesday night show, I'll have watched everything, but I'm watching every play multiple times, because if I want to convey the information the best way possible, I need to make sure I'm seeing what I see. And then sometimes you go to other people in the organization or wherever, people who know a lot more than me, to ask hey, am I seeing this right? So just so you know. Anyway, just that aside, I appreciate people who want the video. I want it too. Can't have it. Live with the stills. There you go. Anyway, so one of the positives from Sunday is, besides Cam Cheeseman's snap on the field goal, no major injuries. So we don't know yet about Logan Thomas. We get back out to the facility on Wednesday. That's the initial practice report. So we'll wait and see what happens there. We did talk to Ron Rivera today, and a couple of things that he talked about. He was asked a lot about Sam Howell, of course, because he's kind of important. His growth and development is key to this franchise. And if they want to do something in the future and he develops, they're in a much better position. They need to know, if he doesn't develop, then you're going to have to go get a quarterback again this offseason and once again start from scratch. So we're going to spend a lot of time over the next however many weeks talking about his growth and development. And there are times where we're going to say he holds the ball too long. We'll get to that in a few minutes. That's part of the growth and the development. Where does he improve? How does he improve in that area? It's not an overnight thing. So I don't expect it to be. You shouldn't expect it to be, because it takes a long time. The kid has started 4 games. He's 3-1 as a starter. Not all on him. Certainly, yesterday wasn't all on him. He did not play well. There's no sugarcoating that. And I think the one guy who wouldn't sugarcoat it is Sam Howell. But that's where we're going to talk a lot about that. And you listen, we get in the offensive line, they need to be better, but the one that can really grow and develop is Sam Howell. And because I think, we don't know what his ceiling is. I think with this line, you kind of know what their ceiling is, but with Howell, you don't know. So that's why we're going to spend a lot of time is, does he get better? What does it look like 1 week from the next to the next to the next? And shoot, we'll probably go through some of this next year too, because there's always a lot that he's still going to be learning, because even next year he will still be a young quarterback. So there's always much more that they can grow, learn, and develop with. So anyway, so again, I'm going to get to sacks and pressure. We'll get to the sacks last, save the worst for last, I guess. But we'll start with Washington's pass rush. Where was it on Sunday? And I think that's a big thing. That's something I got asked a lot. Why weren't they getting more pressure? They had 10 sacks in the first 2 games. The defensive line, I think it was 7 guys had at least half a sack in the first 2 games. That's really pretty impressive. One quarterback hit on Sunday. That was Montez Sweat. So what happened there? So give Buffalo a lot of credit, because there was, from play design to the protection schemes, or they used 8-man protections a couple times. They had 7-man protections more than a few times, or guys just chipping and then releasing. And then a couple times they changed launch angle. Sometimes it was just a matter of Josh Allen was taking 7-step drops. When you have that big an arm, when you can see over the line like that, it's something you can do, but it creates better vision for himself, because it does give you a deeper drop. And there are times where if he had taken a 5-step drop, the rush probably gets home, but it's a 7-step drop. So there's a guy in a hand in his face about a yard or so away. So all that was going on, and it made for a good game plan by Buffalo and a frustrating day for Washington's defensive line. There were times where I'm like, okay, that's not bad pressure, but couldn't get home. And then there were a lot of times when they would go to a 5-man protection. There were 9 times, I think it was like about 35-40% of the time when they went to a 5-man protection, they would throw basically a quick pass. So they had 9 throws in 2.5 seconds or less, completed 8 of them. But that was also a way to offset the pressure with some of those quick throws. And when they weren't going quick throws, they were using more chips, 7-man, and a couple 8-man protections. So that's in general. The first one I'm going to talk about is the 3rd and 8, where the first drive where Josh Allen just makes a Josh Allen play. And, it's funny because I asked someone here, well, what more could you have done? He said, well, you contained better. Well, yes, you could have. And like he gets flushed out to the right. Montez Sweat comes up and, just tries to make a play, but you can't, and he couldn't. And Josh Allen starts to kind of fade and throws off his back foot and flips up a dime to Stephon Diggs down the field. Now, there's a couple of things on that. One, when we talked to Rivera on Monday, he talked about how he felt that Josh Allen got in their heads a little bit along the defensive line's heads. And it's not so much that, it was more like the respect they had for him and what they were afraid maybe he could do if you didn't handle it well, allowed him to make some other plays. So even on some where Montez Sweat, maybe do just run right at him because that's what you do. He kind of broke down and jumps and was anticipating something, but Allen then it gives him a chance to escape outside. And so, just little things like that. But, Montez Sweat did a nice job on the play because he did his job. He just couldn't contain a guy who is very hard to contain. And he drops a dime and then, you move on. I mean, what do you do? Because, again, the only thing you could do is do a better job contain. But Josh Allen made a tremendous play. One time where they had all backup defensive linemen in there, and it was I think that he gets it out in 2.83 seconds to his 3rd read, and there was no pressure in that time. So that's kind of stuff happened too. So I just want to point that out. It wasn't always the starting line, and those starting linemen are playing a lot of snaps. I think they're all over, I think they're all around 79, 80% of the snaps. That's a lot. And things, it's a hard pace to keep up. So I think they're going to have to do a better job rotating some guys in when F.A. Obadi gets back. He's going to help. Fedarian Mathis, we don't even know what they have in Fedarian Mathis and what kind of shape he'll be in when he is back. But getting more depth on that front, I think, is going to help because you don't want to start wearing some of those guys out. And I think I would have a little bit of concern moving forward about that being the case. There wasn't like there were always bad rushes, because there was one where Chase Young has a good rush to the inside. What I really like, he's in a wide 9 stance at the wide of the tight end, or I think there was a tight end, but he's wide, lined up very wide, and just takes an inside rush against the tackle. And what I liked is, we talked last week about communication or just being in sync. Well, he rushes inside, Allen waits, bounces outside. They got him contained. And what that led to is not a sack, not a hit, but a hurried throw in 2.15 seconds. And I always go back and time these throws, so it's my unofficial time on that throw. But so it depends on how good my thumbs are working on that play. But I had it at 2.15 seconds, which is really fast. But there was good pressure, and it started because of Chase Young and John Allen, how they handled that play. But there was another one where it was the protection to a 7-man protection on a deep throw to Diggs, the one that Benjamin St. Juste broke up in the first half. And that one was, again, it was a clean pocket. I counted I timed it at 3.15 seconds, and it was a clean pocket. Like, that's what was going on. So a 7-man protection against a 4-man rush all day to throw. And when you have guys like Stephon Diggs and you have an arm like Josh Allen, you can do some of those things because you know that he can get it to wherever he needs to get it. And he's also mobile, so he can make a play on his own if it's not there. So that's another play that jumped out with how they protected it. It was incomplete, but it was more just their overall design of the day and how they were trying to do this. Believe it or not, there was a sequence in the second quarter where I felt like the pressure was actually pretty good. So there was the first one was a quick throw. Second one was an incompletion. Third one, it was a blitz by Percy Butler from the defense's left, and it forces Allen. He's kind of backing, sliding to his left, and just throws it back kind of over the middle, incomplete. So those were good pressures there. It's just that no quarterback hits. But he felt like it seemed like they were very aware of what this pressure could do. So he was more than prepared to handle it mentally and seeing it and getting rid of it. And it's a difference when you had one guy who's a young quarterback, one guy who's a veteran quarterback, and how they handled the pressure was a key part of this game. And I think it's a big part of the experience factor for Josh Allen.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus. This fall, the Disney Bundle has all the action.
Holy smokes!
Watch live NFL and college football games on ESPN Plus. On Disney Plus, there's Loki Season 2.
War is on its way.
And Ahsoka.
Buckle up.
And on Hulu, you can watch The Boogeyman and Welcome to Wrexham.
Oh my God, the expectation.
All of these and more streaming this fall with the Disney Bundle. Blackouts and restrictions apply. 18 plus only. Access content from each service separately. Offer valid for eligible subscribers only. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Columbia Sportswear. It's snowing again, and that wind chill is killer. But you're not worried about that because you shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection. It's warmth perfected with tiny gold dots that reflect your body heat inside and protect you from the cold outside. No snow or chilly temps can stop you now. Go out anyway. Shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection now at Columbia.com/infinity.
On the Bills' touchdown, I like that design as well. They have jet action. So the jet action kind of causes some hesitation. But what they also do is they kind of leak out Stephon Diggs to Chase Young's side. Well, Chase Young now backs off because he's anticipating maybe there's a screen to Diggs over here. And I'll tell you what, if he doesn't do that, maybe that does happen. But they didn't have to because Gabe Davis gets open. But what this does is it messed up the rush, and it gives Josh Allen another clean pocket. But its play design really, I think, kind of lessened what the aggressiveness of the defensive line in that play. And then you have Derek Forrest initially seeing that jet start to come up a little bit. He races back. Listen, if he's with Davis, they have a tight end coming underneath him and attacking that area. That he would have been the guy then as well, because nobody dropped deep enough to really take that away. So that would have been a big play one way or another. But that's how they set it up. Just good action at the snap, the jet, and then getting Diggs kind of leaking out to a side to help further slow the pass rush. A couple of times, they were just beaten off the line. And I forget the receiver's name. It was number 10. I apologize for that. I should know it. Oh, Shakir. That's what it was. Yeah. Shakir. He beats Benjamin St-Juste off the line in the 3rd and 4. And so the pass rush has no chance to get home because it's an instant win and just a little, in and out gets them. First down, 5 yards, ball's out pretty quick. But again, those 7-step drops. And there were a couple times, again, good rushes. There was a 2nd and 8 in the second quarter and 7-step drop, good push. I think it was by Ridgeway, and deep drop. Again, 5-step drop, he's going to get hit. 7-step drop, he's fine. So that, again, there was another 7-step drop where Ridgeway again had a good pressure, good driving, got his guy back, and it didn't really help. And they started to go to that Cinco package of trying to get more one-on-ones. It helped a little bit at times, but certainly not enough because the pressure just wasn't consistent. I'm not trying to tell you that the pass rush was somehow great. I'm just telling you, trying to explain why, from what I saw, why it wasn't better, because I do think over the long haul, this is going to be a good group rushing the passer. And I think when you get a guy like Efe Obada back too, I think he's going to provide a little bit more help as a backup pass rusher. So that, I think that's then the other one. And this, again, another good design where they're from their own 1 yard line and it's 8 and 8. It's first of all, so Buffalo starts their own 1 yard line. First, I think it's the first drive of the second quarter or second half. And under center, so you're thinking it's run. You have 2 tight ends, running back behind Allen, play action. So you're freeze a little bit, but you're getting an 8-man protection. He's got all day to throw. And there's a 2-man route. And he kind of has to move a little bit in the pocket because, just changed it. But by doing that, Diggs is coming across the middle, almost like a deep dig almost, but then he cuts back out. So it's not quite like a sail route where you go in, what we've seen with Dotson and Terry and all that, but it almost looks because he just turns, he's matched one-on-one. He just turns and raises his hand and he's got it. So it seemed like that's a big part of their chemistry or their synchronicity, whatever you want to say. And I don't know that was a designed route that way. It felt like it was that he improvised because he's played with Josh Allen. You see him start to move a little bit and he just cut it up to an open area. It's man coverage and just a really nice ball. But again, it's design. It starts with the design and plenty of time. So he wasn't hit. I want to say he had the ball. It was 4.27 seconds. He doesn't get hit. There's nobody near him. And you're just not going to win in that situation. So yeah, you have to find a way to offset that. Some of the way you do that is by maybe a little bit better coverage, but my gosh, it's 4.27 seconds and he's not even getting hit. What are you supposed to do? So that's a hard one. I also liked how Buffalo on a 20-yard pass later in the game, they did a good job moving the pocket and again, creating a better spot for Allen to be in to get away from some of that pressure. So I thought so again, not a great job by the front or by the pressure game, certainly. And there were a couple of times where they would drop. Washington would, the tackles dropped a couple of times, try to do a couple of different things, but Allen does a nice job of at least recognizing it and getting rid of the ball quick. Not always a completion, but certainly getting rid of the ball and avoiding a negative situation. Pressure has to be better against Philly. And then I think it's going to start with that they got to do better. Right. But I think I give a lot of credit to Buffalo and then facing Josh Allen and guys like Diggs. This is how, this is how you do, I hate that measuring stick stuff. I'm kind of done with it. What I'd like to see for them is to measure a season, not a game. Measure that season. The season is going to tell the growth. They're past the 1-game measuring stick. You got to show the growth over the course of a season. And that's how you do it. So again, I said this the other day, you win or lose that game Sunday, you still got to come back the next week and perform well. So that's the task. They haven't been able to do that well enough because they haven't had a winning season in too long. So to me, measure the damn season instead of the games anymore, right? Then just get to the end of the year, just play it, get to the end of the year And then that's where we're going to see, did you actually get better or did you not? Are you 8-9, 9-8, 10-7? What are you? That's where you are. Anyway, just that's my little rant for there. Now, let's get to another fun topic, the sacks. So we're not talking sacks Fifth Avenue. It's like sacks Ninth Avenue, I guess. That's bad. Anyway, let's start with this. First of all, when I broke it down, most of the sacks are not on the offensive line. Almost all of them were not. Some of them were. However, I'm not absolving them of anything because the protection, the pockets, when you compare the pockets that Josh Allen had compared to the pockets that Sam Howell had, dramatically different. There are clean pockets all day for Allen because of how they design things, because of his veteran experience and getting through some of those reads. It offset what could be pressure, right? And just some of his own skills. But with Washington, there's just too much pressure. And sometimes it's a guard. Sometimes it's not even showing up as a quarterback hit or anything like that, but it's certainly impacting the play. Because when you have a guard or a center or a guard or whomever sitting in your lap or a tackle, whatever, it impacts your throw and it impacts a follow. It could impact your follow through. It could impact your vision. You may not get hit. It may not be a sack, but it certainly impacts the play. Possibly. Now, there are times where Sam Howell completes those passes in those situations. More power to him. That's tough. But the point is the consistent pressure is there and teams know it. They're going to keep challenging this group with different sort of, and a lot of it's just simulated pressure, man. It's not always, they definitely had some 6-man rushes, a couple 5, whatever, a lot of simulated rush of those pressures. So you know, in other words, you're overloading a side or you're fooling a side and you're getting 3 against 2 on one side and maybe only one guy rushing on the other because you're fooling the line to believe that X is happening when actually it was Y. That also is going to fool the quarterback at times. And when the Bills players, I should say, talk to reporters, they mentioned that Howell sometimes holds the ball. And even Rivera said that one of the things he talked about at his press conference is him being indecisive and sometimes seeing too much. So sometimes maybe seeing a color, you know, the jersey flash, and you're thinking it's one thing, or maybe you're thinking the guy's closer than they really are. And so you don't throw that ball and now you're eating it. Now you're leading to a sack. So things like that happen. But again, the line has to be better. There's just way too much pressure and it's going to, so the floodgates are going to open. What also happens is when you get that much pressure, I've seen this with other young quarterbacks, you start to feel the rush in ways that you don't want to. And you start to tuck the ball and try and get out of there. A couple of times that Sam Howell is tucking and running 5, 6, 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And that you don't want that. You want him keeping his eyes up the field and he's done that. Last week, he did that against Denver. He made a couple of really nice plays because of that. And, he does a good job when he can extend the plays. But when you get that kind of pressure from a good front, and they're going to face good fronts next, against Philly too, that when you get that kind of pressure, you've got to be able to withstand that. And that means the protection has got to hold up better. Brian Robinson, there are a couple of times in pass protection, not as good a job as he's done before. Another time where this is where those chips, you want to chip, right? Well, one time he chips on the 18-yard run that Howell had in the red zone. Part of the reason he had to run is because Robinson goes to chips the guy that Charles Leno is blocking, but he chips him to the inside and he gives him a path to the quarterback. So that's where sometimes like the chipping is good, but you have to make sure you do it right. And you have to be in sync with the tackle, because if the tackle can set to the inside initially, knowing that it's coming, then you can adjust if the guy gets bumped inside. But if you're not ready for that, if you're not set that way and it gets hit that way, then it leads to problems. So anyways, let's go over some of the sacks and just what happened there. And obviously, again, this is all a key part of the growth. I'm a fan of Sam Howell, right? I think the kid can be good. I think there's a lot to like about him, but I also know and cover this long enough to know that every young quarterback goes through something. And at some point they all have to endure a bad day. Again, if I were coaching, I say, okay, let's see what we got in this kid. Let's see what we got in this team. And because it's always about, again, it's what is next? If I write a good story, that's great. What's next? If I write a bad story, okay, what's next? You still got to show up for work the next day. And that's the same here. And so I think we'll learn a lot about Sam Howell. And the thing I feel confident about is that the kid is a competitor and competitors respond well. Now, he's still going to go through growth periods. I don't know what kind of game he'll have on Sunday, but I do think he'll respond in the right way, which is putting in the work, not hanging his head, and just seeing how can you get better. Those are all the things that over time win out. Keep that in mind. Be patient. I know you've been patient, but be a little bit more patient. Oh, by the way, he was hit on 26.2% of his of the time in the pocket. That's for the season. That's the 8th highest in the league. His time in the pocket is about middle of the pack. Time before a throw, middle of the pack. Time before getting sacked is about 11th in the NFL. Of the 9, I said at least 4 were on Sam Howell. I'm saying at least because I think there's a couple, 1 or 2 that are mixed. Some play design too. All right. The first one to me was the toughest one because, man, you're in a good position to do something with the ball, right? You have a first down. I think it was at like the 30, the 25, maybe the 25. You're in position for points. You're down 3-0. You're in position to tie the game at least. Understand that. So take care of the ball. And so on the first one, there's Nick Gates loses a block inside. So start with there. So Gates doesn't help him there, but don't compound the mistake with another one. And that's something, I've talked to coaches about that many times going way back over the years. Just because a guy gets beat on the block does not mean it has to result in a bad play, right? It happens. So as a quarterback, you've got to handle the situation. But so he gets through, it's around 2.89 seconds or so, but maybe it's a little bit less than that. He can get to third or fourth read, which is De'Ami Brown in the flat. There's a linebacker that's kind of dropping off, who's probably about the 18 or 20 yard line or so. De'Ami's about the 27. You have Antonio Gibson running down the right side. So that's where you're going to go with the ball here. And if you get to De'Ami, you'll see, like, I'm going to put up a still on this, and you've probably already seen it, but De'Ami has a chance to run. Now, maybe the linebacker comes up and gets him and stops him for no gain. Okay, 2nd and 10. Maybe there's a lot of room run. He makes a guy miss, and now he gets a lot more yards. Now you're talking 1st and 10 inside the 20, certainly, maybe even inside the 10. Don't know, but you got a chance there. But just get it to De'Ami. I'm not sure why. I think this goes back to what Rivera was saying about maybe some indecision. That's a play that to me looks like that, right? And again, so now how do you handle the next time? That's fine. But in this game, like that play, that was a huge play because it cost you a chance. Well, it started a chain of negative situations that cost you a chance at points. So, because then the next play, it looks like an RPO. It's 2nd 18, looked like an RPO, doesn't hand it off. And then about 5 yards deep, realizes there's really nothing, and he tucks it and runs, and he loses, I think it was a yard, but it looked like an RPO. Another time it was 3.06 seconds, 4 guys rushed. He has Cole Turner open over the middle, got 2 linebackers inside, but Cole does a good job finding the soft spot in the middle. Looks like he could have delivered that ball. Doesn't. Did something flash there again? I think there was some pressure that started to flash. Again, you don't know what he's seeing, but that's the stuff that they were talking about, which is why I'm pointing it out. So don't shoot the messenger. I'm just relaying what they saw, and I'm trying to see what some plays that really kind of illustrate that. Then, there are a couple of times they're down 37-0, and it's a lost cause at that point. So I think there was, like I said, a number of times where it was with Howell. I think just being able to handle some situations a little bit better than maybe he did. And there was I think another time where I told you about when they were down 37-0, 3.2 seconds, starts to run up. Eyes kind of go down a little bit, and I think that's where you start to feel the rush. I don't blame him. My God, you've been hit all game. And so there's going to add up. And so you're going to be very cognizant of that. That's why they have to do. Listen, one of the things that this organization has done, I think they failed him in building the necessary line to protect him. And we all know that. And then we'll get into that more probably another time. I think it's, that's an important thing too. Why didn't they do a better job giving any quarterback a better line than they have? And I think you can certainly rightly look at that and feel that way without a doubt. But so you're kind of compounding. You have a young quarterback behind a makeshift line that is still learning one another, and maybe they get to a certain point. Maybe they would. Here's what I say: that line would probably be okay with Josh Allen as quarterback. Sam Howell would be okay with a better line, right? It would be better, but they have each other, and it's kind of a tough mix because you have a makeshift line that's not going to be one of the best, and a young quarterback who needs a line to be better for him, to give him that comfort in the pocket so he can so as he's processing, going through stuff, that that he has a confidence that he can sit there and do it. And so sometimes I just wonder, is this kind of a tough mix? Not I wonder, it's a tough mix for a young quarterback. Anyway, so those are some of the ones on how. And then when I look at some of the other ones, the play design, I'm going to look at the first one is a play design. It's a 1st and 10, 4-man rush, simulated pressure, 2.55 seconds. He runs through the right side, little bit of a crack. It's again a 1st and 10, gets sacked at 3.80 seconds. My problem is nobody's looking. There's no receiver. I have the still up, circled all the receivers. You have Jahan Dotson running a crosser. Looks like he's open, which he is, except that he's going to turn that route up. So he's really not even looking back at the quarterback. So I don't know where Howell could have gone with the ball in this situation. So while he may take that sack, I'm not giving it to him, because now he could have thrown it away. I get that. He only lost a yard. I'm okay with him trying to get up and maybe get a few yards, because he almost did. I think he got tripped up a little bit. But point is, there was nobody there that was available to catch a ball. He could have thrown it at Dotson. It would have hit him in the side. He wouldn't have been ready to catch it. Now, again, you could have thrown it at his feet. You avoid a sack, but then it's second 10 versus 2nd 11. I'm okay with how he handled that. But nobody was turning around. So what are you going to do? Another time it was Andrew Wiley gives up a sack, and this was a quick one to Leonard Floyd. 2.53 seconds, just beats him around the edge, and is a 4-man rush, 5 blockers. There was 2nd 11, so that was one on the offensive line. Another time there was a 3rd and 12, and there was no one, again, nobody open. And I think I'm showing this one as a still picture for those of you listening on the podcast. I apologize. But it's a 3rd and 12. So they had over 4 seconds and the receivers aren't open. So now, could he have thrown it away? Yes. It's a 3rd and 12. It's late in the game, and you're trying to make a play and extend a play. So, okay. So you lose several yards. It's 3rd and 12 and a blowout. The last one was kind of a mix, and it was the 2nd 14, again, 5-man blocker versus 4, 3 seconds, doesn't have anywhere to escape. This is where, is it really the line? Well, the pocket is tight, so he has nowhere to escape, hits his plant step, and what you see is the defensive lineman Phillips starting to kind of come to the middle. Now, he could have hit there. It looks like Curtis Samuel has a shot at the ball, but this is one where you start to flash something. Maybe you don't see, maybe you're seeing something that isn't quite there, but it's just playing with your head because it's been a rough day. But again, to me, that's a mixed one, because I'm not going to put it all on him, because the pocket wasn't very good to begin with. And that pressure leads to him, I think, being a little bit indecisive. So, I think that's one I'm not going to, certainly you can't put on him. Certainly not all of it. Should they have left him in the game? I think you can look at it 2 ways. Now, I do like, one of the things I love about this kid is I think he is very tough and competitive. And so I think guys like that want to stay in. I do understand if they had taken him out, I'm not going to say oh, you got to keep him in to get him more work. You don't want to, you want this kid to be upright for each of these games. So, and he got sacked a couple more times in that last drive, had a couple of nice throws, but I don't know, is it going to really make that big a difference? Sometimes maybe you just want to see how a guy responds. Maybe they're afraid what the questions would be asked. Like, hey, are you considering? They're not going to consider a change after a few games. So, and I'm not even going down that road, but the point is, if they had taken him out, wouldn't have said boo about it. But I also I'm going to play both sides of the fence here. I don't blame, if I'm him, I want to stay in there because I want to finish that. I want to finish on a high note. And I think that's what they were probably trying to do. Get some points, see if you can get some points to finish on a better note. And you can go back and say, hey, listen, you finished well, right? Even though he took a couple sacks on that last one. There are a couple of times too, even with the decision making, I think that starts to play with your head a little bit, and you start to feel like you've got to make everything up. Like on that first drive, again, I go back to that first drive because man, they had it going. And even on the last drive, this is another lesson to be learned. And it's, he throws an interception that's going to De'Ami Brown. You have Terry McLaurin one-on-one to the outside on the left. Go to him because, that's your guy. And it's one-on-one. If McLaurin is one-on-one, go to McLaurin one-on-one. I think that should be a rule of thumb here. And if he doesn't make the play, just make sure nobody else does. But when you're throwing it over the middle like that, and you got to make a pinpoint throw in a situation where really what you want to do, I think it was like a 3rd and 18, 3rd and 19. You want points. And in that situation, like there's no need to, if you're going to take a shot with the one-on-one with Terry McLaurin, not over the middle, because he had to make a perfect throw to De'Ami. You also had a couple guys underneath. You could have dumped it off, get 6-7 yards, set up a manageable field goal, and then tie the game. So one of the things that I was talking about this with someone else today, just one of the things I always liked about Alex Smith. Now, Alex Smith, when he was here, was not a great passer. His passing totals were rarely all that great, but what he did know how to do is manage a game. Now, first of all, every quarterback's a game manager. So there you go. It's just what level can you manage it at? But part of it is you're in field goal position, get the points. It's 3rd and 19, understand down and distance situation. I understand, like, what I like about Howell is that mindset that you can make a big play, but you sometimes have to know when is a good time to attempt to make that. And was that the time? Well, in hindsight, no, because you threw an interception. But even before that, I would say if you want to take a shot, you had McLaurin one-on-one, go to your guy. Anyway, that's about all I have, folks. There wasn't anything pretty from this one. Again, I know some people don't want to hear a lot about what Howell has to learn or what he's doing wrong or whatever. It's how he learns. And, I'm not here to help him learn. I'm here to help you learn about what is it that he needs to learn. How about that? But this is what they're going through with him. And they know, like Ron Rivera talked about, like they need to develop him. They need to grow and develop him. That's why they kept him in. That's why they're going to, clearly ride with him because he's got ability. So how can he get the most out of that ability? But again, we can talk about the offensive line. You can get to the running game, maybe run a little bit more to help him, maybe do some different style of maybe, they use the quick game a little bit, but maybe not build in so many slow developing plays when a team is starting to tee off on you either. So I think those are some things that they can all learn. But for Howell, what can he do? And again, with the offensive line, folks, this is what it is. And so they're going to all have to improve together. I just, I think you can hope, you can moan, and we can all say that they should have done a better job. This is where they're at now. And so now how do you make this work and how can you get better? And one of the ways is by Sam Howell just continuing to play, continuing to grow, continuing to see things. And then every week come back. There were a couple of times like he had the interception, right? By the way, the one interception to Curtis Samuel, that one looks like earlier I talked about, wasn't a sack, but it gets hit as he throws. And I think that affects his ability to follow through because he looks like he's going to lead Curtis to the back of the end zone, but because he can't follow through, that ball goes nowhere. And the defensive back just cuts in front of Curtis. But if he has an angle, and throw, like, so the decision to me wasn't bad. He has the angle. It's just that the follow through, the throw wasn't, whether it's a throw and whether it's because he gets hit on the follow through. There's not obviously the one that was to Gibson's side, got to get rid of that a little bit quicker or throw it away because he didn't have anything on that ball and you're throwing it to the outside. That was just dangerous as hell. But later in the game, he has a situation. It's not the same exact situation because there was nobody on on Antonio, but he got to him quicker. There was a pressure off the edge, unblocked, gets it to Gibson. They get a few yards. But it was, you learned, right? You handled that situation better. That's the kind of growth you're looking for when you're looking at a young quarterback. And they saw a lot of good things the first couple games, good things last year in his first start. There's still stuff there's a lot of stuff he can build on. And again, I think if I'm them, it's like, hey, how does he respond? How does he come back from this? What does he show better this week? What kind of competitor is he? I think he is a pretty good competitor. But how does that show up Sunday? But they have to do a better job protecting him, giving him some confidence, time, trust in the pocket. And then he has to then in turn go through his stuff better, but hand in hand. But there you go. So anyway, folks, that's it from me. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you sticking with me on what was not a pretty game, the first ugly game of the season. And so again, Bram Weinstein, the voice of the Commanders, and I will be back Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time with the live stream. Join us there. Bring us your frustrations. Bring us your questions. We'll have a Therapy Tuesday. Talk to you next time.